One of the greatest sportsmen in Kenya and the most humblest human beings to ever lived in Kenya is one Stephen Muchoki. At the time of recording this, to the best of my knowledge, he's alive and very healthy. We should learn to appreciate our heroes when they are alive and healthy. That is a rare thing in Kenya. Stephen Muchoki can be declared as one of the first boxers in Kenya. Of course, boxing started when mankind started. And if you can remember, Field Marshal Idi Amin Dada, when he was working in Kenya with the army, with the military, he was the heavyweight champion. So boxing was there, but serious boxing started in mid-60s. Around 1968, we can trace a person called Philip Waroinge. Waroinge can be declared to be the pioneer of modern-day boxing in Kenya. That was in 1968. And then the international amateur boxing in 1972 is when Steve Muchoki came up. Forgive me for saying this. I don't know his tribe. He's called Muchoki, which is a Mkamba name. His younger brother is called Irungu, a Kikuyu name. I met his father very many times, as I will tell you. And I remember the father used to talk Kiswahili with a heavy Kamba accent. So I can't know whether he's a Kikuyu or a Mkamba or a mixture of the two, but he has a Kamba name, Stephen Muchoki, and his brother Michael Irungu. Irungu is a Kikuyu name. He's very humble, and he has always been humble. So humble that you'd believe that he's in his wrong profession of being a boxer. Those who know him personally, maybe we may have noticed that he's a very good motivational speaker, and who knows, maybe he does it. He's a very kind-hearted person. Other Kenyans who started boxing in those late 60s was Robert Kent. Robert Kent became a Muslim later and changed his name to Abdallah Kent. I've talked of Kent becoming a Muslim. Those days, especially in boxing, a lot of people followed what Muhammad Ali did. What Muhammad Ali did, and they became Muslims. Muhammad Ali was the greatest of all boxers. He was born as Cassius Clay Jr., but he converted into Islam, and at first he started calling himself Cassius X. Why did he call himself Cassius X? He was a follower of Malcolm X. Now, Malcolm X changed his name, surname. You know, slaves those days used to have the name of their slave masters. So, Malcolm X said that his surname is an African name, and Mr. X in Africa, X, of course, you know, in maths. So he called himself Malcolm X. Cassius Clay changed first of all to be Cassius X because he was an African and he didn't know his ancestor. So he became Cassius X, and that later became Muhammad Ali. That is when Robert Kent changed to Muhammad Abdallah Kent. Stephen Muchoki grew up in Mudhurwa. Mudhurwa, there are so many changes. You know, I was born in Mudhurwa. If you want, you can say Pumwani. But I'm a Mudhurwa born. And if you want to know where Stephen Muchoki grew up, you enter Mudhurwa from the West Gate next to St. Peter's Clever School. And as you enter, I think there is a market somewhere they have now built, but there used to be a road going. You go past Mudhurwa Social Hall. Now, they used to stay a block or two west of the Social Hall. And his father was a groundsman with the Kenya Railways. Groundsman, I mean, mtu wa kukata nyasi. We used to stay opposite Greenhouse. If you have been to Adams Arcade, there is a house called Greenhouse. Opposite it, there is a road called Kirichwa Road. And next to it, there are 4 houses, which are dental or something. There is some clinics there of those 4 houses. We used to stay in one of those houses. And Muchoki's father would come and cut grasses there. But we were kids. That was 1973 when I was 12 years. I was 11 and a half going to 12. He would come and we could not believe our eyes when we were told that this is the father of the famous Stephen Muchoki. I think the railway retained him because of the honor of his son. He could come, he would repeat the same story. We would ask him the same questions at least 5 times a day, and he would tell us the same answers 5 days a week. That is 25 days a week, 25 times a week. And we would even ask him how he felt having a son like Stephen Muchoki. And he would tell us, Muchoki is so humble and whatever, but his younger brother is so rough. I'm always having a cases of his younger brother beating about the people. He meant Michael Irungu. He never told us Michael Irungu's name, but he used to tell us that he has a younger brother. I mean, he has a younger son who is a younger brother to Steve Muchoki, who was very rough. Steve Muchoki is a very small person. He was in the light flyweight. Now in boxing there are several, I've even forgotten the listing, but you see, flyweight is one of, they are comparing you to be so light like an inzi. So there was flyweight, there was bantamweight, middleweight, heavyweight. Later on they brought in super heavyweight. So he was a light flyweight. I even remember my teacher in Kiganjo, who was a boxer, was called Poison. If you remember, Poison Kamau was also a lightweight and a small one. And I don't know how Poison entered into the police with that pygmy body. Now, Steve Muchoki continued from 1972 to mid-80s as a very successful boxer. If you know anybody, any young man or woman, because nowadays we have Kina Congestina, who wants to be a boxer, I would request you to contact Steve Muchoki. Those days, there was no way of Kenyans going to professional boxing. They only ended up in amateur boxing. He was so successful that a week before Jomo Kenyatta died, they were called with Henry Rono to State House Mombasa to be given honors. Henry Rono was made an OBS, Order of the Burning Spear, that is class 1. And Steve Muchoki was given CBS straight away, class 3. That is, on the lower level, we have OBS, Order of the Burning Spear. Then we have Moran of the Burning Spear, which is grade 2. And then the greatest of them is Chief of the Burning Spear. He was given that. Jomo Kenyatta said that him and Rono were to be given each 8 cows, 8 sheep and land. But you see, Kenyatta died within a month of saying so. Now, the idea of land, cows and sheep died with Jomo Kenyatta. When I went to secondary school, Form 1 to Form 4 at Nairobi Technical, is now when I met Michael Irungu. By then he had become a boxer or in the amateur section. And I think, if I'm not wrong, Michael Irungu must have ended up as a professional boxer. You know, things were now changing. Kenyans were being allowed to. That was in the mid-80s, and Irungu is the class that is slightly above the class of Kina Robert Napunyi Wangila. I came to know of Irungu because the two, Steve Muchoki and Irungu, had younger sisters. And the law in Mudhurwa was, by just, you had to know which girl to say, Sasa sister, because if you happen to tell Michael Irungu's and Steve Muchoki's sister, Sasa sister, you would be beaten thoroughly. And I even remember there are even discussions on how to curtail him legally, because in law, if you are a boxer or a karateka or anything, you are not allowed to fight street fights. Viewers, Steve Muchoki is one of the greatest heroes of our time. I'm fortunate enough, or we are fortunate enough, for a channel like YouTube that gives us opportunity to learn about Kenyans who otherwise would not have featured anywhere. Long live Steve Muchoki, one of the greatest boxers Kenya has ever produced.